Hello, fellow reader. Join me, I am your host, Sansi. Dive into the world of magic and explore the most stories full of wonder, fantastical delights. Open your eyes and see the parade come to life. Sansi's parade, Sansi's parade. Join the parade, Sansi's parade, parade. Sansi's parade, Sansi's parade. Join the parade, Sansi's parade.
Chapter 4. Buddy. I'd been pushing ink around with an old mop I found in the utility closet for probably an hour at that point. Before that I'd cleared away the broken glass and ink bottles, tossed away the sheet music paper that was destroyed. It had felt like I'd accomplished something. But not now. Now it was just ink swirling but not going away. I turned. Oh, hi. It was that girl from the writing department. The one I'd seen earlier. It was Dot. Coming to rescue me. "What are you doing?" she asked. She said it as if she thought I was crazy. "Oh, that music guy told me to clean this up," I said, holding my mop midair as it dripped onto the floor. More ink. "He was in here and I guess broke some bottles and there was a burst pipe or something." "Music guy?" "Yeah. He's pointy." I didn't know much else about him. Not even his name, now that I thought about it. "Oh," said the girl with a small smile breaking her severe expression. "Sammy. Maybe." Oh, it was definitely Sammy. "He's enthusiastic." She stepped around me efficiently to look at the mess in the closet. What was all this ink doing here in the first place? She reached up and touched a sticky puddle on one of the shelves. "Thick," she said more to herself than me. "Tell me about it," I replied, finally lowering the mop to the floor and feeling the physical exhaustion from all the cleaning come over me. "Can ink go bad?" she asked, looking at me. "No idea." She shrugged. "Well, doesn't matter. He shouldn't have had you do this. Look at you, you look terrible." I remembered then I was also covered in the ink. Because of Sammy. Ma was going to kill me when she saw the state of my clothes. "Come with me, I wanted to show you something." And because anything was better than pushing ink in a circle, I did as I was told. I didn't know why Dot was so keen to take me wherever we were going. Okay, so I do admit my first thought was maybe she liked me. I mean, not just liked me, but was sweet on me. If you're reading this, I know you're laughing, Dot, but I didn't really know any other reason a girl would want to hang out with a guy, especially at our age. It hadn't occurred to me then that we could just be people together. Friends. I'm glad I figured that out. Anyway, I didn't know where she was taking me or why, but anything was better than cleaning up, as I said, and at this point I was so far off task that I wasn't really sure what my job was anyway. And I deserved a break. I was pretty good at making things make sense in my head that way. I followed her down the hall, turning this way and that until we came to the elevator. I felt such relief seeing it that I forgot for a moment that I wasn't heading back to the art department and was totally thrown for a loop when the elevator started heading down instead of up. "Where are we going?" I asked. The cage we were in shook a little, and gears controlling the moving mechanism squeaked a bit too loudly. This elevator must have been one of the first of its kind, I thought. A historic artifact. A really slow-moving one. "I don't want to spoil the surprise," said Dot matter-of-factly. "Huh," I said out loud. I'd meant to think it. She turned and narrowed her eyes at me with suspicion. What? What?" "Oh, nothing, oh no. You just don't seem like the type to go for mystery and games and stuff." I slowed down as I said it and she stared at me. It felt stupid all of a sudden. I knew nothing about her. I just knew she looked practical. But looks could be deceiving. "Not inaccurate," she said, unsquinting. "But once in a while, you know. A surprise can be neat. Besides, it's hard to explain, better to just see." "Yeah, sometimes words aren't enough," I agreed. She thought about that for a moment. "I'm choosing not to take that as a personal insult." "Oh. No, it's not. Didn't mean it anyway at all. Just thought I was agreeing with her." She made me feel on edge, like if I didn't say things perfectly she'd get the wrong idea. Turns out that was accurate. In a good way. I'm Dorothy, by the way. Yeah, I think that's how it went. I think that was our first introduction. I'm Dorothy, by the way. People call me Dot. I call me Dot. Just call me Dot. Right. I remembered now, the secretary calling her that. I'm Buddy. My real name is Daniel, but everyone else calls me Buddy. Really? Why? Well, why are you called Dot? It's a typical nickname people give Dorothys, she replied, as if I should know that. Oh. For Daniel, usually it's Dan or Danny or something. Buddy is weird. That took me aback. I didn't really agree with her on that one. No, it's not. Anyway, it started as Little Buddy. Everyone in the neighborhood called me that. I was pretty tiny and always doing whatever I could to help my folks, with chores and stuff. Just wanted to be helpful. Running around the neighborhood. I guess people just started calling me that. But then, I looked down at myself, at my narrow legs propped up by my large shoes. Always felt like I was a stick on a stand or something. You grew, she said. Yeah. The elevator finally stopped with a jerk, clacking my teeth against one another a bit again. I figured I'd need to get used to sudden stops or else they'd eventually pop out of my head. Dot pulled the grate open and we stepped into a dark, deserted hallway. We were in the basement, that much was clear. And as I looked around, it was pretty obvious no one worked down here, that the space was used for storage more than anything. Large people-sized cardboard cutouts of Bendy were leaning against the wall to the right, and as Dot turned and I followed her to the left, I could see several storage rooms with open doors. Inside the rooms, boxes were piled up on each other. Are we allowed to be down here? I asked. Dot shrugged. I took that to mean no. She was pretty straightforward answering any other kinds of questions, so I figured, a shrug that didn't actually answer the question. Yeah, that was probably a no. So can I ask you something? She glanced at me with, again, that look of suspicion. I mean, I'd eventually learned that that's how she looked at everyone, 'cause she was suspicious of everyone. Still, at first it made me wonder what I was doing wrong all the time. Okay. I noticed there's a lot of ladies working here. I wasn't exactly too sure how to put it. Dot laughed at that. A single kind of coughing laugh. And she shook her head. Who you callin' a lady, Buddy? She said with a small grin. My face got hot at that. You know what I mean. Just, girls working here. Like the head of the art department. Is a lady. And, I kind of faded that thought away and was silent. I know what? She asked, turning a corner. I followed her. She flipped a switch and a few dusty light bulbs that ran along the narrow ceiling flickered to life. I'm not used to seeing so many women doing this kind of work. It was hard expressing what I wanted to say. Mostly because, I guess, I wasn't really sure what I was asking. Okay, before you tie yourself into a knot, String Bean, let me help you. Dot stopped walking and turned to face me, and I faced her back. During the war, Mr. Drew, like every other employer, lost a lot of his staff to fight the good fight. So like a lot of other companies, he hired us ladies, as you put it. War finishes, not all the boys come back, and those that do, well, Mr. Drew liked our work. I think it surprised him at first, but then he realized he'd been ignoring a lot of talent without realizing it. Mr. Drew likes talent. He doesn't care what gender or age or color or class it comes in. Yeah. I nodded, thinking about my interview with him. Not that Mr. Drew actually knew if I had any skills. I hadn't drawn so much as a circle yet. Odd, when I thought about it that way. Anyway, you get it. The guys who came back, came back. But Mr. Drew didn't fire any of us gals. We worked together for a while, some of the men stuck around, others didn't much like being bossed around by women, so, we end up where we end up. With lady bosses. I got it now. Just bosses, Buddy. Women aren't some strange special boss breed. Just people, Buddy, just people. I nodded again. I mean, I knew that. I did. Dot looked at me for a moment. You're going to have to toss that whole outfit. It's destroyed. I looked down again at the black ink soaking through my shirt. Yeah, I said. I didn't want to think about it. That left me with only one other good outfit of a shirt and trousers. Dot gave a sharp nod and started walking again. I did too. She walked quickly, but her every 2 strides were one of mine, so I didn't exactly feel rushed. Even though I sort of knew that I should be getting back to work. It was nice to have something make some kind of sense. It was nice to have a friend. Was she my friend? I wasn't sure. We finally stopped in front of a closed door. Dot glanced around then, and that definitely made me think what we were doing was not allowed. She pulled out a small brass key from within a deep pocket in her skirt and unlocked the door. Where'd you get that? Another shrug. She opened the door, turned on the light, and we stepped inside. It was another storage room, but much bigger than the others we'd passed, which had been barely bigger than a closet. That being said, so much was piled up along all four walls that it gave the impression the space was much smaller than it was. In the middle were a couple of chairs and a table. And what looked like a bunch of those little dollhouses you'd see in the toy shop windows were laid out on the desk. My shoulder caught against something sticking out, and I turned to look at it. It was a wheel. A wheel? That was when everything finally came into focus. It's interesting how the brain works. It can see all the things as one thing. It doesn't see the pieces, the individual component parts. You see a car. You don't see a windshield, doors, headlights. You see those second after you've seen car. It's funny how, if you don't look for the pieces, sometimes you never notice them. The small individual things that make up the whole. The clues. The point was that I'd just seen stuff. But now that I noticed the wheel, I noticed more. I noticed the wheel was attached to a small-looking cart, and I realized it was a lot like the bumper cars at Coney Island. And then I realized that this wall was made of a stack of cars. And more than just that, there was a sign half hidden with light bulbs around it. I could read "Die Bumpers" on it. I walked into the room and turned in a circle, and noticed more things. Like a black and white carousel horse and a cutout of Boris the Wolf holding a platter with the word food and an arrow. Amazing, isn't it? Asked Dot. I turned and saw she was standing by the table. What is all this? Well, let me show you, she said, pointing at the little dollhouses. I joined her at the table and realized then that they weren't dollhouses at all. They were part of a small-scale model, which made a lot more sense. We both leaned down on either side of the table. I briefly glanced up, and the way Dot's nose and mouth disappeared behind a small model of a building, it looked like she was a giant watching a human flea circus. I glanced back down. I was hovering just above a tiny sign that read "Bendy Bumpers." I peeked over my shoulder at the real thing, hidden now in the shadows. I don't get it. Coney Island? I asked. Bendyland, she replied. I looked up at her and she was looking at me with this kind of knowing look. Does this exist? I asked. But even as I did, I knew the answer. It couldn't, because all this junk was in this room. Did it exist? She shook her head no. It's Mr. Drew's next big project. Been working on it for the last couple years, or at least for as long as I've worked here. But always in secret. Nobody knows about this place, not that I've seen. It used to be just bits and pieces and the model would grow and grow. But then last month, this room started really filling up. Like something is about to happen. I thought about the man Tom I'd seen yesterday. I thought about the cardboard tube in his hand. The kind of tube that architects and designers carry. Maybe he was working on this. I don't know where he's going to store everything because even this warehouse is tiny. Crazy, isn't it? I took in the whole scene of the model before me. There were rides and a midway with little booths hosting little games. There was a food area, and even something that looked like a haunted house. It was a whole park. Just for Bendy stuff. Mr. Drew came up with all this? I asked in awe. Who else? Asked Dot. And you don't think anyone else knows? I don't think so. Dot stood upright and crossed her arms over her chest, still looking at the model. I stood up too. How do you know about this? I asked. Good question, buddy. She seemed impressed. Keep asking questions like those here. It's important. I didn't understand. I mean, I understood what she'd said, I just didn't understand why she'd said it. So I asked. Since, you know, that's what she'd told me to do anyway. Why? I don't know, buddy, I don't. I just feel something in my gut and it doesn't feel good. I need to understand it better. I like information. I like details. Ma used to say the devil's in the details. Anyway, don't get distracted, buddy. You asked me a question and look what I did. I didn't answer it, and we moved on to something else. I nodded. I was confused, except I wasn't. which was also confusing. So how do you know about this?
I sneak around. I want to collect facts. 'Cause of the gut thing. Yeah. I understood sneaking. I'd done it a lot in my neighborhood. And when I'd spied on the artists in Central Park.
Where'd you get the key?
I asked. Dot smiled at that. Even better question. Thanks.
Wally's always losing his keys.
Doesn't mean I gotta return them. I nodded again, not sure how I felt about the whole stealing thing. Well, I knew how I felt and I didn't like it, but I liked Dot and she seemed so sure of herself, like she always knew the right thing to do.
Maybe the right thing this time was the wrong thing somehow?
We should probably get back upstairs before they notice we're missing, she said. I felt a flash of panic thinking about being late and getting fired, though at the same time, I'd been missing for a pretty
long time already and no one really had seemed to care. Then again, no one really knew I worked here. Yet. Could you help me find my way back to the art department?
I asked as we locked the door behind us and made our way toward the elevator. Of course. I stopped then. Thinking. Dot stopped too. Noticing. What is it? She asked. Why me? I asked. Why you what? Why did you come to find me? Why did you show me all this? She squinted at me then with that look. You have that look, you know, Dot? That look that says I should figure this out somehow myself, that I have the key, the solution. I didn't. I didn't then, I don't now. You put too much faith in me, Dot. My gut, she replied.
I'm glad you enjoyed that video/gameplay. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, goodbye!